You've been told to forgive your whole life. By your parents, your faith tradition, every self-help book you've ever picked up. Forgive and move on. Let it go. Don't hold grudges. And you've probably tried. Maybe you've said the words, "I forgive you," and meant them, at least in the moment. But then, a week later, you're lying awake replaying it again. The resentment came back. Maybe stronger. And then you feel guilty about the resentment on top of everything else, because clearly you didn't forgive well enough. Here is what nobody told you. The reason that kind of forgiveness doesn't work is because it isn't forgiveness. It's suppression dressed in spiritual language. A Course in Miracles offers a completely different definition of forgiveness, one that has nothing to do with approval. Nothing to do with reconciliation. And nothing to do with pretending what happened was okay. And this version actually works. By the end of this video, you're going to understand what A Course in Miracles means by forgiveness, and why it is so different from every other version you've encountered. You'll understand why the conventional model of forgiveness fails and what it's actually asking you to do instead. You'll see how ACIM's forgiveness releases you, not the other person, and why that distinction changes everything. You'll understand the specific mechanism the Course describes for how forgiveness heals the mind. And you'll have a practice you can take into the most difficult relationship in your life right now and begin using today. Forgiveness in ACIM is not the hardest thing in the Course. It is the point of the Course. Everything else builds toward this. Think of the person it's hardest for you to forgive. You don't have to name them out loud. Just bring them to mind. Now think about what the standard advice about forgiveness is asking you to do. It's asking you to decide that what they did wasn't that bad, or that you understand why they did it, or that you're going to rise above it and be the bigger person. And maybe some part of you can do that on a good day when you're not tired, when the wound feels distant. But then something happens, a smell, a song, a conversation, and it's right there again. Raw and close. And all you've managed to do is push it down temporarily. The Course says the reason this keeps failing is that traditional forgiveness is still saying the offense was real. It's saying something happened, it was bad, and I have decided generously, magnanimously, to overlook it. The ego is still in charge. It just found a more flattering costume. What the Course is proposing is not an act of generosity towards someone who wronged you. It is a correction of a perception that was never accurate to begin with. A Course in Miracles defines forgiveness as the recognition that what you thought happened, what the ego told you happened, is not the ultimate truth of the situation. Not because harm was never done in the world of form, but because the Course distinguishes between the level of behavior and the level of identity. At the level of behavior, people act from fear, wound each other, fail each other, betray each other. The Course doesn't deny this. At the level of identity, at the level of what they actually are, the Course says every person is still the innocent, whole, loved being they were created as. The ego's actions are real as experiences. They are not real as definitions of who a person is. Forgiveness, then, is the decision to see the person, not the ego behavior, as who they are. It is what the Course calls looking past the fearful action to the call for love beneath it. Because in ACIM, every attack, every cruelty, every betrayal is understood as one thing, a call for love coming from a mind that is deep in fear and pain. That doesn't make the behavior acceptable. It makes the person forgivable. And forgiving the person, releasing your definition of them as guilty, is what releases you. Now here's the part most people stumble on. Because this can sound like the Course is asking you to gaslight yourself. To pretend that what hurt you didn't hurt you. to bypass your own legitimate pain in the name of spiritual enlightenment. So let's be precise, what is the Course actually asking? And how do you do this when the wound is real and the anger is still there? The Course is not asking you to feel something you don't feel. It is not asking you to say the words, "I forgive you," while the resentment burns underneath. That is exactly the model it's replacing. What it is asking is something far more internal and far more honest. It's asking you to be willing to question the story the ego has built around what happened. Not to abandon your experience, but to hold it more lightly. To consider the possibility that the person who hurt you was acting from their own fear, their own wound, their own ego-driven confusion. Not as an excuse. As an explanation that makes them human rather than monstrous. The Course puts it this way: you forgive not for the other person but because you want peace. Every grievance you hold is a link in a chain that ties you to the past. To that moment. To the pain. Every time you rehearse the story of what they did and how wrong it was, you are choosing to live there again. Forgiveness is the decision to stop choosing that. To cut the chain. Not because they deserve it. Because you do. The Course also introduces a specific figure in this process. The Holy Spirit, which it describes as the part of your mind that holds the truth about everyone, including the person you're struggling to forgive. You don't have to do forgiveness alone. The practice is to hand the grievance over. To say, essentially, I don't know how to see this person clearly. I am willing to be shown something I can't see yet. Here is your practice. Bring to mind the person you thought of at the start of this video. Don't try to summon warm feelings toward them. Don't perform forgiveness. Just say this and mean it as much as you can: I don't know the whole truth of who you are. I am willing to see you differently. I release my definition of you as someone who damaged me. You don't have to believe it fully. The Course asks for willingness, not certainty. Sit with that for 60 seconds. Notice what shifts even slightly in your chest. That slight loosening. That is what the Course means by forgiveness beginning. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens in exactly these small increments of willingness. We started with the forgiveness that doesn't work. The kind that asks you to be generous and tolerant and spiritually evolved, while the resentment quietly runs the show underneath. That kind of forgiveness is exhausting because it's fighting against itself. The version the Course offers is different in kind, not just in degree. It's not a moral achievement. It's a perceptual correction. You're not choosing to be a bigger person. You're choosing to see more accurately. And in doing so, you free yourself from the past more completely than any act of willpower ever could. That is why the Course calls forgiveness the key to happiness. Not a virtue. A key. It unlocks the door. Subscribe so you don't miss video 7, because in the next video we get into the Holy Spirit. What it actually is in the Course. Why it's not what most people imagine. And how it functions as the practical bridge between the ego's world and the peace you're looking for. Leave a comment below. Is there someone in your life right now toward whom you're holding a grievance you know is costing you more than it's costing them? See you in video 7.